What's good, King Ganda? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. But today we have a very interesting topic with a very, I would say, a very controversial guy here. He has a really good point, but I'll let him introduce himself to the people. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Pan-Africanism Strikes Back. Let you get a glance of the name on YouTube. And I'm just a person who is, yes, a Pan-Africanist, believes in the Pan-African ideology. I promote it. I spread it. I do the best I can to live and embody, the philosophy of Pan-Africanism. And I'm just here trying to spread awareness and answer some of the tough questions and put them in perspective in a way that is conducive to the progress of our people.
All right, and definitely thank you for coming on. I watch you have a stream that I don't know if you have a name for it, but quite often you have strong react, and you have a topic, and it's a lot of things going on and names and stuff like that. But in between, I guess the time, you could call it a diatribe or a monologue or however you want to call it, where you're talking about something and it's kind of a long soliloquy rather, and you drop these little hints and things like that and gems, and in one of those you were talking about why white people don't owe black people anything. And when I heard that, because typically if I'm listening to you, I'll have it up and then I'm doing some little notes. But when I heard that, I kind of I turned the volume up. Where were you going with that?
Okay, so I made an assertion on my channel that white people don't owe black people anything, and it's true. Black people in America have this mindset where they feel like, white people owe us something. We were mistreated, we were enslaved, and we should be paid or compensated for that in some type of monetary way. When you look at the world, when you look at the way politics works, when you look at the way trade works, when you look at the way labor works, and most importantly, the way wealth works, you quickly realize that you are not really so much a victim. Well, you are a victim, but you're really a victim of circumstance. And when you're a victim of circumstance, that's something that really is not a thing where people can actually compensate you in response to those circumstances, right? So I wanted to just break it down very simply like this for most people. Okay, if you are an African, you were enslaved. First, you were conquered to an extent. Then you were enslaved. Then you were brought to America to work for labor. Now, when someone owes somebody something, that means that there is like a contract established from the onset that needs to be basically, the contractual obligations need to be met at the end or the termination of that contract. Now, say you go to the bank and you take out a loan. Okay, well, once you take out a loan, the bank draws it up on a contract that, we're going to give you this money, and in this amount of time, you're going to have to pay us back with interest. There was no contract for slavery. When they bought slaves, they bought them outright to use how they saw fit. So however they saw fit to use you, they used you in that capacity, right? And you remained a slave until the time when you either bought your freedom, right? There were people who actually paid white people for their freedom, or they gave you freedom based on the different political changes in the country at that time. Now, if you were an indigenous person, like a lot of black people like to say, "Oh, we're indigenous." Well, if you were indigenous, it doesn't make your situation any better because you were actually conquered and they physically took everything from you by force. Once you conquer somebody, once you go to battle and fight and lose, it's like when somebody get knocked out in the hood. Sometimes they're going to check your pockets. They're going to empty your pockets out. And you can't go around talking about, I got knocked out, y'all emptied out my pockets, and now I want my stuff back. Pretty much you just got to take that L, right? So that goes to the we're African argument and the indigenous argument. Either way, you were conquered, you were defeated, and you as a slave were the spoils of war, right? So they invested their time, energy, and effort into conquering you, and because you lost, they took you as a slave. How we're owed something because we were conquered is beyond me. But a bigger point that needs to be made, O'Shea, is this. This is why you'll never, it doesn't matter if you feel like white people owe you, this is why you will never ever get anything from white people in the form of reparations for slavery. Follow me here. Let's pretend that we live in a country that is ruled by something called the Constitution. O'Shea, you know what the Constitution is, right? You've heard of that before, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Imagine that in this Constitution, the first 3 words of that Constitution are "We the people," which gives us an idea that the people are actually in control or actually make up the government that rules the country, that enforces the laws of the land, right? So the government, right, is made up of the people, specifically white people. Now, why would white people who feel every day they reiterate the same thing, we should not be held accountable or have to pay for the sins of our fathers. We should not have to pay for the transgressions of our forefathers. I never owned slaves. Why should I have to pay for slavery? This is the common sentiment among white people. Well, here's the catch. White people now, today, in our age, the ones who never owned a slave, they make up the "we the people" part of the Constitution. So back in the day, there were slave owners who made up that group that is encompassed in "we the people." But in our time, it is non-slave owners who make up that "we the people." So why on earth would the new group of white people who make up that "we the people" in the Constitution feel obligated to pay you for reparations for something committed by the group who was "we the people" way back in the day that has since died off? So it's actually at a point where there is no rational way that the government can compensate you or give you reparations for slavery, because the people who actually did it to you, they're dead. So now the people who are their offspring feel like, we'll never give you anything because we did not do that to you. Now, if you talk about the Japanese got reparations, the Japanese got reparations during the time when the people who did it to them were still alive. So they were like, yo, we were kind of messed up for doing that. Let's give them something. The Jews got reparations. The Jews got reparation when the people who did it to them were still in existence. The World War II ended in 1945. By 1954, the Jews had their own nation. That was only 10 or 9 years after they had been treated, atrocities have been committed towards them in Germany. So a lot of what the United States and other countries pillaged from Germany, right, in the axis of powers, was given to the Jews as compensation or reparations. So what it is it's an issue of time. There's been so much time between now, back when we were slaves, and now, O'Shea, there's no way you can even hold those people who did it to you accountable. And what you're doing is you're going to people who never benefited, well, they benefited from it in the long run, but they've never personally benefited from it today, right? And so they just feel like, yo, we don't owe you because we didn't do that to you. And unfortunately for you, they make up that "we the people" section of the Constitution. Now they are the people. They are the government. So since they are the government now, they will never allow their government to give you any compensation for something that they don't feel they did to you. Does that make sense?
Okay, so let me ask you this then. So I understand what you're I understand what you're saying. So, okay, then if those pretenses, because you're saying, because I know that someone's going to have this position. Okay, so you're the person that is Pan-Africanism strikes back.
Right.
And by your argument, you're saying that because slaves were bought from Africa and brought into America, and because they bought those slaves, then the whites don't owe the blacks. Fair enough. Then okay, Mr. Pan-Africanism strikes back.
Right.
Then Africa owes us. What do you say to somebody that says that?
Well, that's true. If the Africans sold you into slavery, the reparations should be sought from Africa. The only problem with that argument is this: not all Africans participated in the slave trade. Many people were preyed upon by other Africans who came in and enslaved them or conquered them and took their children and their relatives into slavery. So at that point, you then have to do the task of identifying every person who actually was a slaver, right, in Africa, or the descendants of that person. And one of the bigger problems is a lot of people who were once slavers found themselves enslaved after a while. So it's really just a huge cluster or a conundrum that you're never going to be able to get to the bottom of. And that's the thing about slavery in history. Slavery was something that was so prevalent in all societies, white and black. There is no way a person can actually pinpoint or identify the person who actually enslaved them from the inception. And so it's really an issue that our people need to let go. And you understand why our forefathers, Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, they never pushed black people into a direction where they were actually going to white people asking for things, because they understood that was an argument that was really impossible to win, because it was no way for them to actually prove or identify exactly who benefited from their labor. So what they told black people to do was to go acquire skills that people would pay you for. So see, what we want, O'Shea, we don't want freedom. We say freedom because it sounds good, but what we want is liberty. And I'm taking this straight from Dr. Umar Johnson just to give him credit. Freedom is when you're free, you're on your own. There is no safety net. Nobody's going to help you, right? You're just out on your own like a wild stallion running free. He don't got nobody who gonna put oats in the trough for him or put hay on the ground for him so he can eat. He's free, so he's also responsible for his own survival. What black people in America want is liberty, which means you have freedom of movement to a certain extent underneath someone else's protection, O'Shea. Freedom, no safety net. Liberty, more room, more autonomy, but a safety net, which is the United States government. And that's why when us as Pan-Africanists tell African Americans, hey, we need to go back to continent, we need to go do what we need to do, there's all types of excuses, because they don't want actual freedom where you can just go somewhere and it's up to you to make sure you survive. They want liberty, which is where they are actually able to move around and enjoy certain benefits while still under the stewardship of the white race. And when you hear them defending, oh, we need reparations, we need all these things, all that is they don't want to leave, so they make up different reasons why they have to stay, right? It's like a person who is it's like a person who is leaving a relationship. Now you done went to divorce court found that you shouldn't get nothing at all, but you gonna keep on sticking around, going to talk to the person, interacting with them, because you say, despite what the court say, you owe me, right? Or like a kid who lives in a parent's house. A kid who moves out of their parents' house has freedom. They can go do whatever they want to do. Now, there's a difference between the kid who's like, I just got to get out of my parents' house, and the kid who's like, well, I still want to enjoy the protection and the safety net of being in my parents' place, but I just want my dad to get off my back and let me, move around a little freer, or let me bring my friends over every once in a while. That person just wants liberty. They want to enjoy the comforts and safety nets of living with their parents, but they want to move. They want a little bit more room to move around. A person who truly wants freedom, They're sick of having these people on their back. They're sick of being in this place where they don't control anything. So they'll go move up in a house with 2 and 10 and 15 people just to get that freedom to make their own decisions and decide what they want to do. So, we're in many ways like, like that person in the marriage who's like, yo, the courts have already ruled that you don't owe me nothing in the divorce settlement, but I'm still going to stick around arguing this case that you owe me. I bought you that ring. I bought you, we got this house together, so I have rights to it and all this stuff. And the reality is, what happens to those people? Those people don't really want to be rid of the relationship and marriage. Those people still want to be attached, right? But they got some issues that they're not happy with that they want to continue to discuss. A person who's really ready to be out of a marriage, they'll walk away without asking for anything. How many women and men were just so sick of their mate, they walked away and didn't even show up to divorce court? I'm just ready to be rid of you. I'll sign it and go. You give her whatever she wants. Just get her away from me, right? So we're in that situation. We still want to stay attached to the white power structure while at the same time pretending like we wanted freedom. And even in not to be long-winded, but even in slavery, O'Shea, there were more slaves at one point in the South than whites. If there were more slaves than whites, O'Shea, if we were really trying to be free, we could have just all got up and dipped at one time. As many slaves was running around the plantation, it would have been nothing for them to kill all the overseers, get rid of the master, and kill him. But just like Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed thousands of more slaves if they knew they were slaves. So that leads you to the idea that not all Black people even wanted freedom during slavery. A lot of Black people were okay with the position they were in. And that even rolls over into today, where people say they want freedom, but when the opportunity for freedom presents itself, they have all these different reservations as to why they can't just truly be free, separate from the oppressor, right? And they find different reasons. Oh, it's reparations, or we don't have education. The white man needs to give us this and give us that. It's just all a spinning on that, proverbial hamster wheel that we don't like to acknowledge we're on. And that was a lot. Sorry.
Let me kind of ask you this, because you'll have some people that say, okay, let's do this. You'll have somebody that will try to be a little bit more intelligent about it. So, okay, Brandon, I will give you we can leave slavery out of the argument, but then we can talk about reparations for civil rights infractions. Jim Crow laws, those are on the books. We know that the whites have apologized and admitted to that. That's something that you can point to. You can look at the wealth gap, things like that have still been affecting Blacks to the very day because of what happened then. And we're not talking about slavery anymore. At the same time, people can say we can still fight for these things that we know that we are owed, even if you leave slavery out of the argument. Black mistreatment of African Americans has created this country and to become wealth. So why can't I, get what is owed to us, because they have admitted that they have been wrong, right? And that Blacks are still suffering from this time. This is what they're talking about, the wealth gap. Even the Democrats, leaders always talk about it, right? So why can't I do that at the same time and look towards Africa at the same time? What's stopping me from doing both those things?
Well, one reason is they've already paid you, right? They've paid you. They've actually already given you everything that you wanted, right? And I know people are going to say, that's not true. They need to cut the check. Well, here's the problem with that. During the time following the Jim Crow South, right, there was a thing called the Civil Rights Movement, where the people who benefited from Jim Crow were still alive to where they could compensate you for the wrongs that they had committed against you through Jim Crow. So you did all these marches. They whooped on you a little bit. They felt sorry for you. People start getting mad and y'all need to do something about this. So they came to the table. They said, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. Okay, y'all then finally forced our hand to where we got to come to the table to sit with you. What do you want? O'Shea, when they came to us and asked us what we wanted, did we say we wanted monetary reparations? Did we say we wanted 40 acres and a mule? Did we say we wanted tangibles that we can use to build wealth in this country? No, we did not. What we wanted was the opportunity to go sit up in a white restaurant and drink a coffee and eat a sandwich sitting next to some good old white folks. That's all we told them we wanted. We want equality. We want equal opportunity. So what they did was they made a couple laws, affirmative action, things like that. They told the white folks, right? White folks were so on code, they country had to make a rule to get them off of code and not serving you and not letting you up in their business. So what they did was they forced their people, they put their people in an uncomfortable position. They said, well, you got to let them in. You got to let them shop. You got to let them come eat. The white people were against it for a minute. Then they realized, hell, I'm getting rich off of these black folks. They coming up here more than they own businesses. We shut down our own economy to enter into the white economy. So that made you equal. You basically wanted the opportunity to spend your money equally, because that's what we really wanted. We just want the ability to spend our money with white people. That's all we really fought for, and that's what we got. So now, if you could tell me, for me to ask you a question, O'Shea, where didn't they give us exactly what we asked for? We did, when we had the opportunity to get it, we didn't ask for that. So now later on, we're like, hey, we messed up on that first deal. Give us another deal where we can give us another chance to come ask for what we want, right? And they're like, no, we already gave you a chance and you wanted equality. Now, what we've done is we've given you a type of equality, right? For as much as the government could do, they have done. Now, everything else falls onto the individual, because the person who's not hiring, like the government hires black people up in government jobs, right or wrong?
Right, right.
The government gives you an equal shake. But what you're trying to do is force the government to force the individual to treat you a certain way. And the government can't do that because that goes against the parameters of the liberty that people in this country, fought and die for and they enjoy. You cannot force an individual, a private owner of property or of a business, to do anything that goes against what they want to do. So you're getting equality on the federal level, as far as like you can go work at the post office, go work in the White House, go work. The government gave you as much as they could do for you, right? Now, they're giving it to you. So now what you gonna do? Now you have to go and be self-sufficient. Now you have to enter into the game of trade-offs and compromises where you got to give something and get something in return. Well, we don't do that. We go ahead and give everything we got, our vote, our money, our time, our movements. We give that on to one political party and they give us nothing in return. And we've done that for so many years that they're used to it and we're used to it. So our issues are not really even with white people or the government. Our issues are personal issues that we don't want to acknowledge that we need to be accountable for. So what we try to do is project those onto other groups, right? There's plenty of room to be prosperous in America or in Africa or wherever, but we don't want that. We feel like how you got something and you hide it behind your back and the little kid's trying to reach around you to get it. They don't know what it is. It's a gift or a surprise. That's where we are with white people in the government. We feel like they still hiding something from us, like they still got something that they're not trying to give us, right? It's all just a delusion. There's nothing there. They don't have anything else to offer you. They've actually given you everything they could offer you legally based on the rules of their government. And now you don't want to get off your ass and get to work. So you got to keep on making it seem like somehow there's something that they're going to be able to give you that's going to instantly change things. And anybody who's a logical thinking person understands that this is true.
All right. Well, some interesting positions put forth here. I know this is going to be pretty interesting in the comments, but go ahead for those people that you want to tell about your channel, what it's about. Go ahead and talk to them about that.
My channel is Pan-Africanism Strikes Back, and Pan-Africanism doesn't just strike back at, white folks. It strikes back at whites, blacks, whoever comes against the ideology and philosophy or the political stances of Pan-Africanism. Our ancestors didn't train us. They didn't fight and die and raise us up for us to be sitting up playing the victim and begging nobody for nothing. They raised us up in a way to where we would be empowered to do things for ourselves. You never heard Marcus Garvey talking about going to get some reparations. You never heard about Booker T. Washington talking about going to get some reparations, because those people actually experienced the period of time when they gave us 40 acres and a mule, and then a couple years later, they came and took it right back. So they knew that the idea of reparations wasn't something that you could really bank on, because he who giveth can take it away. They understood that. So what they taught you was you need to acquire skills that people are willing to pay you for. Do for self. That's why Booker T. Washington opened the Tuskegee Institute, teaching black men trades, teaching black men nation building skills that other races would pay them for. Look at the South. Once the whites got rid of, once they freed all the slaves, the majority of the skilled laborers were actually black people, right? So black people were doing okay for themselves because we had all the skills. At what point did we decide that having the skills that people would pay for were not as important as begging for people to give us something based on what we've experienced in the past or based on what they've done to us in the past? See, we're fighting a losing battle when we're fighting towards victimhood and asking for handouts or requesting handouts. We need to get back to the place where we are doing for self and building our little nation within a nation. And that's what we promote on the Pan-Africanism Strikes Back YouTube. We have the Pan-African morning show every morning, 7 a.m. Between 7 and 8 a.m. it starts. We play a little music. We have a good old time. We talk about different issues that impact us or that and that are relevant to us today. And we really talk about solutions. But let me correct myself. There are no solutions. There's only trade-offs. What are you willing to give to get what you want? And that's what we discuss on Pan-Africanism Strikes Back.
All right, guys. So I definitely thank you for checking us out today. Go to the first comment pinned to the top. You will see the Pan-Africanism Strikes Back YouTube channel. Keep it real. King Ghana forever. We're out.